So I know people that spend their entire lives trying to do things right. And a 401k plan sounds like what everyone should be doing, and the common advice is usually you should be trying to max this thing out every single year. But in reality, that plan might not make sense for the average person whatsoever, because in reality it can actually cost you a ton of money. So in this video, I'm gonna teach you exactly what the right way to use a 401k is, what the benefits are, and also what all the problems with a 401k actually are. Because in reality, trying to do the right thing because everyone else is doing it, but not understanding that the right thing for everyone else might not be the best thing for you is super important. So in this video, you'll have the choice to use a 401k, but the way the rich people actually use it. Not for the sake of, I'm gonna just spend all my time, all my money, all my effort trying to max this thing out, and when retirement comes, guess what? You're gonna be taxed like crazy, and you're gonna be in deep trouble, and you're going to regret putting so much money into this account thinking you were making the right decision, okay? So in this video, we're gonna break everything down. And as always, guys, like this video. On top of that, also subscribe, hit the bell, shit notify, because we have more content on passive income and investing and a lot more stuff on this channel, and more content coming soon. Now, the very first thing is, guys, I wanna do what nobody else does, which is basically, before I tell you the history of the 401k, which is basically invented by accident in 1981, and the guy that actually did it regretted it. More on that later, okay? But here's what I want to tell you. I want to tell you everything that sucks about the 401k, because no one talks about the bad parts. Everyone says, hey, tax savings, future stuff. What about sucks? Okay, things suck about this plan. I'm gonna tell you all the details right now. So the first thing is, guys, when it comes to a 401k plan, depending on the company that you're actually with and the details of the plans, you might not really have that much freedom at all when it comes to investment selections. They might just give you a plan and that just might be it. And in reality, a lot of these plans, they have terrible investments, but most importantly, they have also very high expense ratios. And you think about a 401k plan, and usually you say, hey, this is for my benefit. The company is trying to help me out. But in reality, these are all incentives created by the IRS, the government, to try to basically do something here. But overall, your employer doesn't do it for you. They do it to save money on taxes. You don't do it for your employee or employer or whatever. You do it to also have some benefit. Everyone here is trying to benefit in some way. And if you understand the game, you get to benefit, but if you don't, you get taken advantage of. And here's why. Because there's something called an expense ratio. So whenever you have these investments, there is an expense to actually manage these funds overall, okay? These funds have expenses and you gotta pay. Now, some funds have very low expense ratios, and also some accounts have, for example, very low management fees. A management fee is what you actually pay to have this whole thing managed. Now, you might think, Tommy, I'm making 8%, so I'm doing great here. I don't really care that much about the fees, but in reality, if you have a high expense ratio, it can eat up your gains. If you have a high management fee, it can eat up your gains. And here's why. Some of these funds, people are paying like 2%. And you might say, Tommy, 2%, come on, it's not a big deal. I'm saving so much money on taxes. And again, I remember I looked at my grandpa's statement and I was like, what are you putting your money into? And he says, Tommy, I don't know. This is what they gave me, and this is what I do. And I think the company has their best interest in me. And the answer is no, not true. The company's looking out for themselves. You need to look out for yourself too. Because guess what? If you're paying 2% in an expense ratio, what does that mean, okay? It means if you're making 8% off your portfolio, 3% is gone to inflation, okay? Then you have 2%, which is basically gone to these fees, and then you have 1%, which is basically gone to taxes, because in the end, you will be taxed. So what are you left with exactly? 2%. And in reality, if taxes increase, you could be left with 1%, okay? That's why I say it's so important you understand what you're putting your money into, because if you don't, and you think they're looking out for you, they're not looking out for you. They're looking out for themselves, okay? On top of that, there's also terrible investment selection, and I agree here. And here's why. Because whenever you're selecting these plans, if you don't have the freedom to pick what you're gonna put your money into, you might just put your money into trash. And garbage is garbage no matter how you put it. If it's, for example, tax-deferred money, the returns are not gonna be that great. So it's very important you look over your investments, you look over the options that they actually give you, and you pick the best one. Now, overall, for me, when it comes to investing, I keep it very simple, and I put my money just into the S&P 500. Those are the 500 largest companies in the US. And if you're asking me, Tommy, why put all your money in the US? Because I believe, I have faith that America is going to be a lot better tomorrow than it is today. And if I don't believe in that, what I'm basically saying is that nothing matters, okay? My money doesn't matter because the currency will basically be like gone, okay? Society won't matter because it's basically not really gonna be great. And prices won't matter because in reality, everything's gonna go down. And America is so big, so powerful, that if that does happen, everything is basically just turned to trash, okay? So that's why I invest the way I invest. Kind of very negative, but it makes sense, okay? Then you have, for example, taxes. Here's one of the big problems with a 401k. The assumption is this. People don't think about this, but it's very true. The assumption is, for example, that right now, taxes are high. So if taxes are high and you get to put money away and not pay taxes today, and then tomorrow, future you gets that money at a lower tax rate or when taxes overall are actually lower, guess what? You saved a bunch of money in taxes. That sounds great in theory, okay? But the highest tax rates recorded in history, I think were like 94% during World War II. And we also had tax rate of 50%. 60%, 70%. I personally don't want to live to see that, all right? Actually, I'll take that back, okay? I want to live to see everything here, okay? But overall, it's terrible. So if right now taxes are actually not that high relative to what they used to be, and eventually will be higher, that basically means your gains can be wiped out. So although you're putting that money away, you're not paying taxes today, but when it is time, if taxes are a lot higher and you're forced into mandatorily taking the money out by age 72, you will be in some trouble because a lot of your gains are going to be basically wiped out. And here are some penalties that I don't like about the 401k. You have the penalty that if you take the money out before the time is due, you get taxed like 10%. Well, not really taxed 10%, you get a penalty of 10%, and you get additional tax on it. I also don't like that the distributions are basically taxed as ordinary income. I can't stand that because in reality, if you have, for example, a low tax rate, it won't really affect you that much, but the odds of it being, for example, lower than 20%, which is basically the maximum when it comes to capital gains tax, is actually pretty low. I don't like that. So those are some of the biggest drawbacks when it comes to a 401k. I don't like it that much. These are the flaws, but the overall benefit is you get to put money away and then in the future you take it out. But again, it's not like a concrete answer to say, hey, yes, this is perfect. The answer is no. It is not perfect. Don't worry, by the end of this video, I'll give you an alternative to what exactly you want to do. Now, let me go on record here and tell you just a brief little history of the 401k plan, okay? Now, it was invented in 1981, and the guy that actually invented it regretted it. Because he says today there are over 4 trillion monies in these 401k plans, and in reality, the people making the most money are the people on Wall Street, not actually the people that actually put in their money into these accounts. And most people, they're retiring with not enough money, and that's obviously not great. On top of that, this plan was not created to help you in a sense. It was actually created to stop unqualified deferred plans, okay, that were basically done by executives, where basically if you're gonna be paid X amount of money, you can put that money away and then you can basically take it out later at a lower tax rate. The government really doesn't really like that because they want to have some control over things and actually want to have some taxes or whatever. So they kind of made this entire plan. And it was actually very hard to get people to invest money into their 401k plans. So they made a whole bunch of incentives to the point where, hey, you can actually put away some of your salary. And guess what? The company is incentivized to actually match something because this way they also get tax relief, okay? So it's like this whole chain of command where the IRS does it because they want to stop something, companies do it because they want to gain something, and you do it because you want to save money on something. But if you're not careful, you actually get, not the best deal overall. So Tommy, if this is the truth, if these are, for example, the bad parts, the truth about the history, which by the way, it was created by accident in 1981. Then, by the way, 1981 was literally what was what is it? That was not that long ago. It was less than 40 years ago, right? No, like less than 50 years ago, okay? So this whole thing is like pretty brand new when you compare it to like America's been around for like over 200 years or so, okay? So it's like, it sounds like 401k has been around forever, but not really. Like this plan is pretty fresh, all right? But overall, here is the way I would use a 401k if I were actually using a 401k. And I was using a 401k when I had, for example, an incentive to do it, but I no longer have one. So why would I keep using it? Again, you got to use common sense. You can't just do something because everyone is doing it. You got to do it because it makes sense for you. Now, overall, the way I would use a 401k is very simple. I would try to get 100% return automatically every single year, and that's by having a company match. So the first question is, I'm going to ask my employer, hey, how does this entire match thing work? Okay, what are the exact details here? Well, Tommy, if you put away $6,000 or 3% of your salary a year, we're going to match it 100%, dollar for dollar. Well, automatically, that's just free money. So I'm going to try to get the max match I possibly can from the company because I get an instant 100% return, and there's no way taxes are going to eat that up fully. But that's it. All the rest of the money I have for my investments, I'm gonna put it into a Roth IRA. You might be asking me, Tommy, why would I want to put money into the Roth IRA if I can just put it, for example, into an IRA? And by the way, an IRA is an individual retirement account. A Roth IRA is just basically you're putting after-tax dollars into retirement, and when you actually retire, whenever you want to, you take the money out, and there are no taxes because basically you pay the tax today. You pay the penalty today. But with the IRA, you say, hey, I'm gonna put money right now into this retirement account. I'm gonna save the money in taxes, so I won't pay today, but I'll pay tomorrow. But when do you need the savings? The answer is you don't need the savings today. You need the savings tomorrow when you're a lot older. And one big thing to consider is I see a lot of people, they get very excited about investing and retirement plans and all this stuff, and all their plans are like basically like in the future, like 40 years in the future. And I love that because I think like that, but it's very dangerous because in reality, you got to make sure the money you invest is money you're not going to need for a very long time. So it's better to go slow and steady than to try to go crazy right now and then later have to need that money and take money out, because at the end of the day, we make our wealth, our money, through compound interest, and compound interest only works when you don't interrupt it. It's that simple, but you need to understand it, okay? But overall, I would try to max out my Roth IRA. Now, let's say that's $6,000 a year, which by the way, is a good chunk of money. Now, if I have any money left over after that, I'm going to go ahead and put it into a normal brokerage account. And you might say, Tommy, why would you do that? The answer is, well, if I max out the Roth IRA, that's done. If I got the maximum match, well, that's done. If I put any more money in there, well, if taxes go up into the future, if I need that money for something, I have so much limitations. And in reality, if I just have a brokerage account and I'm able to pick my investments, again, just the S&P 500, well, when the time comes, I can just basically take that money out, and the capital gains are going to be between 0%, 15%, or 20% based on where my income actually is, and the tax bracket I actually fit into. That's the entire idea, and it makes the most sense. But putting my money into a 401k and locking it up fully is not a good idea. Now, overall, there is one trick here that I want to teach you guys. If the company has a Roth option, use it. If they have a Roth 401k, use it. Because again, don't think about the benefit of, for example, saving money in taxes today. Think about the benefit tomorrow when you need that money. If you have $1 million, you want to take the full million. You don't want to have to be restricted because of all this tax stuff. That's the full idea. Now, there's also another detail that many people don't know, but it's called a backdoor Roth IRA. I think that's what it's called, but it's actually very simple. If they don't have a Roth option, eventually what you can do is, hey, you can transfer the money from the 401k into an IRA, and then transfer the money from there into a Roth IRA, pay the taxes on it, okay? But then that money's into the Roth IRA, and you're able to use it without any issues. That's also a cool little backdoor trick to get the money from the 401k over into the Roth IRA. That's the big benefit. But overall, guys, the most important thing is going to be investment selection, recurrent investments, and just allowing time to take its toll. And overall, don't invest all your money getting super excited, because at the end of the day, when it comes to wealth creation, one of the biggest factors is going to be your expenses, how much money is actually flowing out. So that's why I recommend when you're investing, make sure you're debt free, make sure you have an emergency account, and then make sure you just invest in like 10-20% of your income. But then the next priority while you're doing that at the same time is going to be to pay off your home as fast as possible. Because if you don't have to pay a mortgage anymore, your cost of living goes down by like 30%, or like maybe like 35% or so. Then by that point, you don't really need that much money to actually live the lifestyle you want to live, because your highest expense is basically taken care of and you have very little friction. That's the idea. That's the truth of a 401k. And that's why I say only invest into it to get the max match. And I would only try to max it out if it is, for example, the Roth option, because I can always transfer it over into a Roth IRA, but only if I have investment selection. Because at the end of the day, if you have a lot of fees, dumb investments or whatever, well, if you give me 100% of my money, then it kind of just like balances things out. But if I'm gonna have to, for example, go ahead and invest a ton of money, but I don't have the freedom to actually pick my investments, the ones I really understand, then it doesn't really make any sense. Okay, guys, but that is it for this video. Comment down below and type in, for example, 401k, so I know you made it all the way to the end of the video. And as always, up here is another video. Over here's my Facebook, subscribe. And as always, guys, long-term team officially out. Don't just do something because everyone else is doing it. Think about it and make sure it makes sense for you. Peace.